A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a Jedi Knight will face his destiny. Or build a new one. Now, the fate of the Jedi is in your hands.
Oh, no.
Lego Star Wars, the video game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Guys of the Galaxy podcast. This is a very special episode. I don't know if this is technically going to be a bonus episode or if this is just going to be the video game talk for this week. But you'll obviously know as you're listening or watching this. But I am one half of your host, Kyle Schneider, here on the normal Guys of the Galaxy podcast. But this episode here, I'm joined by a guy who's slapping his headset for some reason.
The audio keeps cutting out
Okay.
It's a broken headset.
Well,
You gotta keep watching.
Peps is not on this episode because this topic that I wanted to kind of discuss is more so something that me and my cousin Jack Schneider here can really dive deep into. So Peps decided to let us handle this one, and he decided to take a little bit of a break because if anybody listened to I think it was the Nerd Talk or. Oh, no, actually, I don't think it was in a podcast. I think it was just me and Peps talking before we started recording this week. I told him my idea of how I wanted to do like a theme this week for the video game podcast or bonus episode, whatever this is, all about Star Wars video games. And this man proceeded to tell me that he's only played Battlefront 1 and 2, the current ones. And my jaw almost hit the floor because I could have swore him and I have had conversations about other Star Wars video games like the original Battlefront and KOTOR and stuff like that, but apparently I was wrong because he's only played the 2015 and 2017 Star Wars Battlefronts. But somebody who has played a hell of a lot more than that is my cousin who's here with me this week. So Jack, what's up?
Nothing much. I'm happy to get into it. I love Star Wars. I love video games.
Yeah,
I'm ready to get into it.
Jack and I very, very big Star Wars fans, as you can tell by me, at least for the podcast. Every episode, no matter what episode it is, I somehow end up talking about Star Wars, even if it's wrestling. Jack, as well, is a very big Star Wars fan. Our whole lives, obviously, we're cousins, so our whole lives we've known each other pretty much, and our whole lives there's been one constant within our lives because I would say like within our earlier years, Jack and I were not very, very close. We. Not to say we hated each other or anything like that. We just weren't really friends.
Well, that's up for debate.
Okay. Well, we just necessarily weren't friends. But even during that time period of not necessarily being friends, not really fucking with each other, I guess you could say, there was the constant of Star Wars and Star Wars video games that we could still talk about, and that was really kind of something that brought us together, even not necessarily liking each other too much. So Jack, what's like your I don't want to say like your earliest memory of Star Wars in general, but what's maybe your earliest memory of Star Wars and me, like us
And
Star
you,
Wars? Yeah.
I don't remember where we were or what we were doing, but I remember we were at some restaurant for a party or something, and you had brought along a bunch of those You remember the little Star Wars toys? Yeah, the
So
little figures.
yeah. So and also another thing about me, I'm a very big action figure guy, and so when Jack and I were little, we they were called Galactic Heroes or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
They really had no posability. All they can do is twist their hands. That was about it. They were squatting all the time for some reason. Really weird toys. But Jack and I loved these things as kids. So yeah, a couple actually 2 years ago, something like that. I actually got Jack one of those packs for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know where they find it. They got discontinued a decade ago.
I think I found it on eBay or Amazon or something like that. It's just out there, somebody selling it. But okay, continue. We were at a restaurant.
Yeah, we were at a restaurant, and you had brought some of them along, and I remember you had brought a Darth Maul one, and I just remember being that is the coolest effing toy I have ever seen in my entire life.
That's great. I love that Darth Maul one. He was very shiny. He was very
Mm-hmm.
shiny for some reason, and he did look really cool. And Jack, actually, let me again. This is a video game podcast that we're doing here, but now that we're kind of on that topic a little bit, I want to tell you a story that I don't know if I've ever actually told you. So when I was in Catholic school, when I went to private school, right? There was a kid who had he came to school, and it was his birthday that not that day, but the previous like week. So at some point, it was his birthday.
Yeah.
And he got this one of those like electronic lightsabers that all of us had when we were little kids. But this one came with an exclusive one of those figures of Anakin from Attack of the Clones with both lightsabers. And the only way you can get it was in this if you bought this lightsaber. So me being the little kid that I am, I saw this figure that I didn't have of these figures that I love so much and played with every day of my life. So I asked the kid if I can play with it until the end of school. And when the end of school came, we were leaving. He said, "Oh, can I have that back?" I said, "Man, I got to be honest, I lost it, and I didn't lose it. I just had it in my pocket, and I just took it home."
I remember you telling me that story. That's
Okay.
a great story.
Incredible story. But my first memory of you and I and Star Wars is we were at when you were younger, your family moved a lot, moved houses a lot. So I don't necessarily remember. This is one of the forgettable houses. But we had like a sleepover, and the next morning we woke up, had pancakes, and we watched the original Clone Wars movie, and not the 2008 one, the one from 2003.
I still watch it to this day. It's so good. It's so good. They
We
don't know
watched
about
it, I think 3 times that day.
it. That
So
sounds
that's my
about right.
earliest. That's
That
my
sounds about right.
earliest Star Wars memory with you. So moving past that, again, Star Wars has really brought us together in the more like recent years. Within the past maybe 5-6 years, we've really gotten close and we've become really good friends outside of obviously being family. And again, the bond of Star Wars just got stronger because now we were hanging out in general, and we had so many cool things to do involving Star Wars. Whether we have like a million inside jokes of Star Wars and memes that we find on the internet that we share with each other, playing the video games, sharing like old action figures, sending each other photos of old figures or something that we used to have, stuff like that, or even just watching the movies. Every time there's a Star Wars movie, you and I are the ones that we go and see it. We make sure we see it together.
We see it like twice every time,
Yeah.
like with every movie.
Yeah, even if Jack doesn't like it.
No.
So, like, what's the earliest memory you have of a Star Wars video game? And I think I know what you're gonna say, but obviously,
It's actually just Republic Commando.
oh
Like
no,
I
okay, I was wrong.
remember like getting it like on the Xbox. I remember going to your dad's pawn shop and getting like the original Xbox and that game and just
Yeah.
loving like the first Geonosian mission. I would like play it over and over again just because I loved it so much. But
Okay.
yeah, Republic Commando is actually my earliest memory of a Star Wars video game, and it's still one of my favorite Star Wars games to this day.
It's
so
a really
good.
good game, and like I'm gonna be honest, I never necessarily played it. I think I had it, but I didn't play it too much, and then I ended up not having it anymore. So I haven't really played too much Republic Commando, but I do remember it, briefly. But for me, I think my first Star Wars game memory, I think really the first Star Wars game I had was Lego Star Wars, to be honest. And I think that people around our age would probably be the same like answer for them. And obviously that game is like a incredible game. So maybe that's how we really kick this off is let's talk about Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is like it's one of my favorite video games of all time to this day.
Okay.
After Skyrim, after GTA 5, still one of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's up there for me too. Like I think the first game I had, I wasn't obviously the Complete Saga. I had the original one of the prequels, and that one was just incredible because I myself am a prequels fan more than like the original trilogy or the sequel trilogy. The prequels are my favorite. So being able to obviously grow up watching the prequels and then having Lego Star Wars, although it's not a very serious game, it's a very funny, clunky, more comedy kids game. It was still a really in-depth game. Had all those missions. This I think was like the first real like Lego game. I think they had made games, but I think this was the first one like on consoles, and it was the first real in-depth like Lego game that they made. And so just being able to like, I think it even came out the same year or around the same time as Revenge of the Sith. And so like being able to play that and go back and play episode 1 and get to play the Lego version of episode 1 and episode 2 and episode 3 was just incredible to me. And then having like the mini kits that you can get on the each level and building the ships, and you're in like the Dexter Jettster's cantina. It's just, to me, the first one was just so good. And I think you had the first one, but I think you played more the second one than the first one, if I'm correct.
I didn't even have the first. I bought the second. I remember having the second one, and it had the same like hub area as. Actually, it was kind of different hub area. It was still like the Mos Eisley Cantina, like from the Complete Saga one, but it was like
Yeah.
different layout and stuff like that.
Okay. And I had the second one too. I remember though going to your house and you were like, "Did you see this game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know all about this game, man." But I remember like that was another game. Like we sat down, we were hanging out. I don't know if we slept over or just like going over for dinner or Thanksgiving or something. But that was another game. Like the whole time I was at your house, we just sat down and played Lego Star Wars, the original trilogy. And that game in itself is also great because again, I like the prequels more, but I still love all Star Wars. So being able to play those missions and A New Hope and Empire and Return of the Jedi is also cool. But I think you were kind of correct in the sense of like the complete saga is obviously the better one so far. I don't want to say in general because we have the Skywalker saga that's coming out like this summer or fall. I forgot the date.
I think it's like October. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too. So obviously we're hoping that one is the be all end all of Lego Star Wars games. But yeah, the complete saga obviously was those two combined pretty much with like some extra. I didn't play like in full of like all the extra stuff, but I think that there may have been a few extra levels or something like that. If you can,
yeah, there was definitely extra levels. I remember there being extra levels. You could actually unlock Indiana Jones too. I remember that being
that
a
was
thing
like
as well.
right before that game came out, I think.
Yeah,
like the Lego Indiana Jones. But I didn't have the complete saga for a while as a kid because like in a sense my when it came out and I went to like I think Walmart and I found it and I was like, "Oh, Mom, I would like to get this." She was like, "This is the same game you already have." She didn't really understand like it's technically it's the same games, but it's still kind of different. So like I didn't have it. So I think my actual introduction to playing that was with you because I think you had it and that was the main one you played.
that's another early Star Wars memory I have is you coming over and we sat down and you were like, "There's bonus levels," and I was like, "Yeah, man, we gotta play the bonus levels." And it was like the Lego City stuff, and you could break all the houses and
And
stuff
I was
like
just confused as to why there's like this free roam like Lego City that you can run around in as Darth Maul. I'm like, this is so weird. But yeah, I now obviously have all the Lego Star Wars games. So moving on forward to like Lego Star Wars 3, or maybe technically like 4, but like 3 is the Clone Wars, which I have, but I didn't have it as a kid. I didn't really watch Clone Wars as a kid too much. You were obviously that's like one of your favorite shows of all time.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure you probably had the game.
I got it on like opening day because I loved the Clone Wars so much. So I got opening day, and I remember playing it non-stop. I probably stopped playing at around 4 a.m. the next day.
Okay.
Because I had beat the game at that point.
That's great. And like you can see sometimes there's a lot of Star Wars games that are especially based off of like Clone Wars or Rebels that like they're not really great games. They're like kind of half games. They're really meant for little kids, you know. So like, I think I looked at it and at that point I was kind of a little bit older. I think I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it's Lego, but it's probably like a really short game. It probably really isn't too much, which now that I haven't beat it, but I've played it and stuff, I'm like, no, it's still like the other 3 that have come out. It's still very in depth and to be honest, the character designs look cooler because they look more cartoonish. You know, Anakin looks way better in the Clone Wars one than he did in like the original ones where he looks like a little girl. Yeah, so there was the Clone Wars, which you played. I didn't necessarily play, but then also had Force Awakens, which was very big for both of us because
it's been like the first like literal Lego Star Wars movie-based game in 10 years.
Yeah, and we were already hyped for Force Awakens in general to get some new Star Wars and see all these new characters and stuff. So getting that game on top of it, we were just like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And that game in itself as well is really cool. It's not, I don't think in depth because obviously that's covering like one movie with the exception of like the prologue of like the Return of the Jedi stuff. But in reality, it's really covering one movie. Whereas the other ones were covering like Clone Wars covered at least the first like season of Clone Wars, and the other ones covered like 3 movies each. You know, so this one when it came to the main story, it wasn't as much because it was like, oh well, there's only like there's enough levels for one movie, whereas the other ones had more. But they had all the DLC packs, which was cool, of like the Rebels pack, the Clone Wars pack, stuff like that. And so like you and I think we just played the hell out of that game because we were like, this is the first legitimate Lego Star Wars movie we've gotten in a really long time.
Add on to that, like it had so many like new game mechanics and things like that's been so much more evolved.
Yeah.
Since like the original Lego Star Wars games, like the flying was so much like more fluid and better.
And the shooting felt like a shooting game.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a first-person shooter or third-person shooter instead of like the original one where it was just like you're still in the same view. You just hit square or circle, whatever it was, to shoot. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that kind of covers the Lego Star Wars. Obviously, again, we have the Skywalker Saga coming out, which we're both really excited for. We're both obviously going to pick up as soon as we can. And hopefully that can be, like I said, the culmination of Star Wars Lego games. Because you're going to have obviously everything. You're going to have all 3 prequels, all 3 of the original trilogy, all 3 of the sequel trilogy. Then on top of that, you're probably going to get hopefully DLC for like Rebels and Clone Wars and hopefully a Mandalorian pack where there's missions like that. That would be really tight. I know they like confirmed that the Razor Crest is in the game. They have like some weird thing, like if you buy the actual Lego set like of the Razor Crest, you get like a QR code to scan, and that's like the only way to unlock it in the game or something like that.
Yeah.
But if they're confirming that the Razor Crest is obviously in the game, I would assume the Mandalorian and the child and stuff will be in the game. Hopefully there's like mission packs instead of just character packs as well, you know.
I would hope there'd be a robot chicken pack as well. I'd love that. That'd be insane.
that would be great. I don't know if that is going to be a thing, but
Probably
if
not.
If
Probably
it
not.
is, that would be also fun and a nice little nod to another thing that we kind of grew up with, which was the Robot Chicken Star Wars and like the Family Guy Star Wars episodes. But like moving forward, because that was the big one for both of us is Lego Star Wars. Moving forward, if you want to talk about Republic Commando a little bit, because again, I didn't necessarily play it too much, so I can't go too in depth.
Republic Commando is definitely one of those classic games that really like stood the test of time. I think it came out like 2005, and I think that was a very big year for Star Wars games because that was Republic Commando, that was Lego Star Wars, that was I think KOTOR 2. I don't remember which KOTOR came out that year, but I'm pretty sure KOTOR came out that year. But it was like a shooter kind of game, and people weren't really expecting it to be all that great. I'm pretty sure because it was a shooter game.
Yeah,
it wasn't really Star Wars' like go-to genre of video games. But then when it came out, it like blew up. And I mean, it doesn't really have like the impact or the like love that like the KOTOR games have and the Lego Star Wars games have. But it's definitely like one of the greatest Star Wars games out there, in my opinion.
Okay. And it's still like it's not the, like you said, the biggest, but it still has like a connection. It still has a fan base for the people that either played it when it came out or people that like went back and have played it, you know, that discovered it from like at least us, like we're a big fan of Zanny on YouTube, and he did like a whole series on it, you know, and I'm more than sure his fans went back and played the game and stuff like that. So it's definitely got some sort of resurgence, and it's not necessarily a dead game. People still play it. And like you have, I think, something kind of similar we can kind of, because I didn't play it too much, but even the like the Boba Fett bounty hunter game, I don't know if you played that.
I didn't play it, but I've definitely like seen a few videos on it, and it's definitely like one of the best kind of those games because it's definitely like Jango Fett is one of the best bounty hunters out there. That's the way how it is, and it gets to expand upon like him as a character and his story a lot. And to be set in that kind of world in the Star Wars universe is definitely like an interesting tactic to go with.
Yeah, and I think I didn't have it, but I remember my friend had it, so I played a good amount of it anytime I would go to his house, and it was a very fun game. And again, it was just when we were kids, we wanted anything as even probably the people growing up with the original trilogy, we wanted anything Star Wars, like any more Star Wars we can get. We had the movies, but we wanted more, anything that would explain, and we still want that. Obviously, we still want, you know, the Mandalorian comes out, and we're like, oh my god, this is incredible, and then Ahsoka Tano has her own show that's going to come, and we're like, we can't wait, it's going to be great. So like, as Star Wars fans, we want anything that's Star Wars. So as kids, that was always fun, was to get stuff from Star Wars of smaller characters or even bigger characters that necessarily didn't get their own sort of story within the movie, which leads me to one of my favorite games, which is the Obi-Wan Kenobi game. which is probably probably like I don't know if there's a fan base. I don't know how many people have played it or if they care about it, but for me, I love that game. So I'll go in depth, but Jack, if you want to make a few statements about the game.
I only got really 2 words to say about the Obi-Wan Kenobi game, and that is defend yourself.
So I had the game when I was a kid, and I loved the game for the fact that it was a game that right off the bat, like there weren't too many games where that even really had Jedi as the playable character. Obviously, Lego Star Wars, but in like a normal Star Wars game, there weren't too many that had like the Jedi as the main character. And even stuff like KOTOR or Jedi Academy, you didn't get a lightsaber off the bat. You kind of had to work towards that, right? So Obi-Wan Kenobi was like the first game I played where it was a normal Star Wars game where you have a lightsaber right off the bat, so you're just instantly a Jedi, you're instantly a Padawan. Um, so that made me play it a lot because I was like, I want to play as a Jedi, but all these other games, I don't want to like have to grind. Like, I'm a kid, I don't want to have to grind super hard to just get to a lightsaber, you know. Um, so I always enjoy the game because I could run around Coruscant or Naboo just hacking up people with a lightsaber. But then also they had a cool feature of like the battle feature, which you could just go in into the game mode and you could be in the Jedi Temple and I pick Obi-Wan, you pick Qui-Gon Jinn, or you pick I think it was like Adi Gallia, which is random to have in the game, but she was in there as like one of the Jedi, and you just pick it and you just go in and you both just fight each other. It was also fun, you know, because there were some games like that, but for that time there weren't really games like that where you can go in and fight each other as Jedi.
Mhm.
And I think even like me and my sister Grace like play that game because she was just like, it's just fun. Like she's not a Star Wars fan, but she was like, it's still just fun to go in and jump around. You have super crazy jump. You can run. You can hack people up. Like she was like, it's just a fun game to play. Um, so that's my little discussion about the Obi-Wan game because I don't really think anybody really likes it because when you really look at it, it's really not that great of a game. It's kind of buggy, kind of glitchy, and kind of bad graphics. Um, let's see what else. Maybe let's talk about well, actually I want to save a Battlefront talk for last because I think Battlefront is maybe the biggest thing other than the Lego Star Wars games for us to like
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
discuss. So I mean let's talk about a game that's one of my favorite Star Wars games and not necessarily one that you played too much, but that's KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Hmm.
Um like I had the game as a kid, but the thing is, maybe you had the same way. Maybe it's just kids in general. As a kid, your brain is not all there. You're not very smart.
No.
So like KOTOR is a very complicated game. So like that game, I really never got past like the fifth mission because I couldn't understand like how to do the stuff. And to be honest, even to this day, I still can't. Like when you and I went back, because I a while ago purchased the original Xbox and got all those games, and like maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you and I went in, and for some reason I'm on like the second world, and there's just this mission that you and I both cannot get past at all, in like some campsite, and I'm just like, this game is complicated. No wonder I couldn't beat this game as a kid, but I did like the feel of KOTOR, and I always loved that opening mission of you on the spaceship where they're getting attacked and you have to kind of flee. Um, didn't really play KOTOR 2, I don't think, because I couldn't even get past the first one. So hopefully one day when I'm in my old age on my deathbed, that could be my final achievement is to complete KOTOR 2 and finally complete the KOTOR games. Um, so what are you have any memories or thoughts about the KOTOR franchise?
Uh, Memory wise, it's nothing really more than just me and you playing it at your house. But I think in terms of like gameplay wise, it also like shares that weirdness with Republic Commando where it goes into a genre where it's not really used to. Like it plays like an MMO kind of game.
Yeah.
But in like KOTOR, I think the love comes out of the story, the plot, the character development, all of that. It's one of those games where it nails it at like
Mhm.
all the time.
I mean, it introduced Revan, and Revan
Hmm.
is one of the
Biggest
biggest Star
like
Wars like,
Star Wars characters that
and he's not even technically like canon. He's
yeah.
still like Legends. You know what I'm saying? But like when you look at Star Wars now, they don't really use like too much Legend stuff in like toys or things like that. But Revan is the one thing that's kind of been the exception. He's in like they'll make an action figure of him, or they'll put him in Lego Star Wars, or they'll use him in a video or something just because he's got such a big fan base, and that game was so good, and the story with Revan is so good. But you even have Darth Bane, Darth Malak, Bastila Shan, like all these characters that everybody loves. Everybody really enjoys all these characters. So that's something I think KOTOR really nailed was creating these characters that people love and will continue to love for years.
KOTOR is really like just one of the most, if not the most loved, like non-canon Star Wars thing out there, really.
Which could be argued with maybe the next game that I'm going to bring up, which would be The Force Unleashed.
I think KOTOR's way more loved than The Force Unleashed, in my opinion.
Okay. But that's another game.
Not to say that The Force Unleashed isn't great. I loved Force Unleashed 1. That was such a great game.
Yeah, that was another game like that. I think that may have been like one of my first games that like I got pretty close to when it actually came out. Again, as kids, we didn't necessarily have too much internet situation going on. Like we had the internet, but we didn't really know how to navigate it too well, and we didn't know like release dates of games and stuff like that. So like for me and probably the same for you, when like the way we would get a new game or find out about a game was really going to Walmart or GameStop or Target and just seeing it on the shelf. Seeing the poster for it saying coming soon. Because I think like going back to Lego Star Wars, I think that's how I found out about Lego Star Wars. The first one was like going to Walmart and seeing like this giant like poster saying that they were going to have an event of like a release event for it, and I ended up I think going and getting it. So yeah, like Force Unleashed was one of those first games where like I think I walked into GameStop and saw like a poster for something that said Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm getting that when I can, and I did. It came out I think like 2008. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. It may have been later.
Or I don't think it was later. I think it's somewhere like around 2006 to 2008. I think is when the first one came out. I'm gonna have to look it up now. It's gonna kill me. But that game in general was another like great game. That was one of the first games you can really like customize a lot. Like you had a lot of customization options.
You could change like your outfit, your lightsaber color, all that.
Yeah. So that was always really cool to me, was being able to like 2008 was when it came out. I was correct. September 16th. That was very close to my birthday. So I probably got it for my birthday. Yeah, like you can change the outfit, and I was always fascinated on you can change the lightsaber color from anywhere. It wasn't even just like, oh, you can do red, green, blue. It was like you red, green, blue, or purple, or like orange, or pink, or like yellow. And I was
white.
just like, this is awesome. Like they really extended what anybody would have thought of like a lightsaber customization type deal, because normally, back then too, like there wasn't like now it's very fleshed out that there's multiple different colors, but red, green, and blue are like the main three. But back then it wasn't as like fleshed out that like, we saw purple with Mace Windu, but other than that, there wasn't nobody in Star Wars canon had like a yellow lightsaber or a white saber, or an orange saber. So like back then seeing that, I was just like, whoa, I've never even seen this before. This is really cool. And that game in general, like even as a kid, like I think maybe more so as a kid, it was really fun being able to just like go crazy, literally unleash the Force, like you have other games where you have the Force and stuff like that. But in this game, it was like you take the Force and you crank it to 10, and then you also break the knob and go to max. You know what I'm saying? Like you can literally just do anything. You can hit a button and send 50 stormtroopers just flying into space, like just do anything. It was crazy. And it was really fun as a kid to play that, being able to really have like almost no limits and just do anything you really wanted with the Force or with your lightsaber. And also the story was pretty understandable even as a younger kid. Like it wasn't a very complicated story. It was very easy. Vader had an apprentice who we didn't know about until now, and this is his story, and that character of Starkiller, I also really love a lot. I think he's a great character. I love the like aggression. He's a very aggressive character, Sam Witwer, who plays him, and also he voices Maul in like Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff like that. He's a great, I like, because he's a really good actor, really good voice actor, and like he's a very big Star Wars fan, done a lot of stuff. So like I think that was the first project he worked on, which was really insane because they used his voice, but at the same time they really made the character him. Like they modeled it after what he looks like, and like he, that was his first project. Then after that he came in and he did, I think even in the first game and the second game, he even voiced Palpatine, because it was just like, I can do this voice if you guys want to hear it. And after that, he did a lot of stuff. Working, obviously, again, he's the voice of Maul in Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff like that. So that was really cool too. Is Sam Witwer playing that character, and he's really good actor, and a really big Star Wars fan too. Um, yeah, Force Unleashed 1 and 2. Like I think I only have the second one right now. I don't even think I have the first one, to be honest. But I don't even really remember playing the second one too much. So maybe you have more that you can add to that.
I didn't even play the second one. I
Okay.
just played the first one, but
Mm.
I loved the story of the first one. That's probably one of my like favorite story-based games out
Yeah.
there. But even still, like what you said about the combat and all that, how you just go crazy with it and just
Mm.
kill everything in sight,
Yeah.
was just one of the most fun experiences that you can have as a kid.
Yeah.
And in that game, like most of the time that you play like a Star Wars game, you're playing as the hero and stuff like that. But this game, you're playing as like a Sith,
Mm.
and you're killing both stormtroopers and rebels alike and all of that,
Which
and
was
Jedi and
yeah,
stuff.
that was another really cool thing, was also having that like kind of different perspective. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not playing as the hero or playing as Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. You're playing as a brand new character who's on the dark side that literally exists. Well, he no longer is canon, but at the time was canon, and you had no clue he even existed until now. You know.
And like being able to kill the Jedi and stuff like that is really also like just something that isn't really explored in video games, like stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like you could throw Shock T into a Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, and it's
That's
like,
top tier stuff.
Shakti.
Shock T.
That's one of our inside jokes. Um, but yeah, that was really cool, and even like I know the second one really, like you said, like kind of dove into that aspect of like they had these like, and they weren't canon obviously, but they were like these scenarios of like, well, what if Starkiller went to Hoth to kill Luke Skywalker, and
Mhm.
it's like you can play that mission and you can kill Luke Skywalker, and it shows you like, well, this is probably what would have happened if that would have happened, or Leia became a Jedi, or like I think it kind of was like domino effect. You went and killed Luke, so after you killed Luke, Leia was the one that stepped up, became a Jedi, became like this crazy, insanely powerful Jedi, and now you have to go fight her, and then you end up
Mhm.
killing her, and then you go and end up killing Han Solo, and you kill Ben Kenobi. Like it had a really cool thing that you knew wasn't canon, obviously, because you've seen these characters live and stuff. Um, but it was cool, like what if scenario of like, well, what if this happened, and if it did happen, this is probably what would have happened after that.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed that with the second one. Like I again didn't play it as a kid, but I played it and found those, and I was just like, this is really cool to again kind of have no limits, just to do whatever you want within this game.
Mhm.
So I want to take like a minute to discuss the movie games, which I didn't play the first one, because I was obviously too young when the first one came out. But I played the second one, and I really played the third one, and then you and I really played the third one so much that you got me it for, I think, my birthday or Christmas or something one year.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. I
Um,
remember getting that.
but I remember playing the Clone Wars game that was like based off the movie, which I had a lot of fun with, but also was a very hard game. It wasn't easy. I think even that's like globally known as just a hard game. I feel like I've seen something about that. Like it's not an easy game to play. But also having the Revenge of the Sith game. Revenge of the Sith. I think the first movie I think I saw was Attack of the Clones. I think that was the first one I saw in theaters, I should say, because I obviously as a kid growing up watched all the other ones. But the first one I think I saw in theaters was Attack of the Clones. But it was to the point where it was just Star Wars, but I didn't like know really what was going on because again I was really young. So Revenge of the Sith was really the first movie that like it came out in theaters and I could understand everything that was going on, the hype that was around it, like being involved in that, getting the game, watching the movie, getting the other games, watching Clone Wars, like all that different stuff like around that 2005 to like 2009 point. Um, and so like I played a lot of the Revenge of the Sith game, which I loved and always thought was fun because you're playing as Anakin and you're now instead of watching him go to the dark side, you're controlling it. You're playing him go to the dark side. You know. And that was yeah another game like that you and I played like more recently, and we kind of played a good amount of. So if you have any thoughts about that.
Um, I think playing Revenge of the Sith was definitely one of the most fun and challenging things I've probably played at your house.
Mm,
Um, but still, definitely like a fun game. It really like ties up well with the movie and all that, like time
mm,
frame wise. Um, definitely challenging. It's definitely one of the more hardest Star Wars games out there, I'd say.
okay. Um, And do you know what Star Wars Galaxies is?
Star Wars. I think I've heard of it. I'm pretty sure I've heard of Star
So
Wars
it was like
Galaxy.
it was an MMO that like was
Hmm.
around back, like it's no longer technically around, but it was back during like the prequel trilogy time. And obviously we were kind of one of those too young to know what it was type deal.
Hmm.
And PC gaming was not really our forte either. Um, but like that was a game that you could you create your character. You can go. They had a crazy amount of planets of from the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. Coruscant, Tatooine, Hoth, Endor, Felucia, like all these different planets. You create your character. You could choose where your house is going to be on what planet. You could choose you want to be a Jedi, you want to be a smuggler, stuff like that. So this is a game again. I didn't play it, but the server's no longer down, but it's now being controlled by fan made servers. So this is something I don't even think I've told you about. This is something I kind of want us to both get into because I think that'd be really cool to
That definitely
purchase
sounds
that
fun.
game.
I'd be down to get into it. I'd be down
All
to
we
get
have
into
to
it.
do, you have to get like the original copy of the game, which we can obviously find on eBay, and
Hmm.
then you just go on to like the fan server type deal, and you can play the game. So that might be something we have to both look into because that'd be pretty cool to do.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
So before obviously again Battlefront kind of last discussion, and I want to talk about Fallen Order, but other than that, are there any games I'm missing out here?
Uh, Bombad Racing. You're missing out on Bombad Racing.
Oh, yep. Oh man, one of my favorite games in the vein or whatever it is of Jack's existence.
Kyle
Um,
still wishes to this day for the sequel. That will
yes,
never happen.
so Bombad Racing was a game that was released again during the prequel trilogy time. And basically it was Mario Kart, but Star Wars version of Mario Kart, and also not as good as Mario Kart. But you go in. It was based off of the Phantom Menace, so the only characters you had was like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, I think Maul, Jar Jar, and like Padme or something like that. And I may even be stretching the amount of characters that were playable in the game. Um, but basically, yeah, you choose one of them. You go to Naboo. Um, Naboo is really the only planet I remember, so I don't even know if there were other maps. I would hope there were.
There was probably a Tatooine or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, like Anakin got in a pod racer. Jar Jar was in like the Naboo like submarine type ship. And yeah, you just went in, and as a kid, again, the game in general sucks. It's a really bad game. But as a kid, I loved the game because I loved the racing aspect, and I also like Mario Kart and like Nicktoons racing and stuff like that. But now I had my Star Wars version here that I loved. Again, the game was glitchy and stuff like that. But as a kid, you don't really care if it's glitchy or buggy. You just want to have fun. Um, so I have very fond memories of like playing as Darth Maul, racing through Naboo and beating Jar Jar Binks.
Hmm.
So yeah, Bombad Racing, definitely an interesting game.
Before we get into Fallen Order, I want to bring up. I know technically this isn't really a Star Wars game, but I think we need to talk about Disney Infinity 3.0 because that was
Okay.
definitely a big game for the both of us.
Yeah. No, for
And
sure.
being able to like, because they had like 3 or 4 playsets just of like
Yeah.
Star Wars alone that had like completely like either it was like an original story, like I know with like the regular starter pack you got that like prequel playset, but
Yeah.
like it would tie into like the Battle of Geonosis with like just stuff that was happening on Coruscant and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it was like a tie in between what was happening in the movies and what was just something they made up. And definitely like I remember that probably being like our favorite probably Disney Infinity game
Yeah.
because
For
it
sure.
was an evolution of the like second one, which is an evolution of the first one.
Well, when it came to Disney Infinity, I don't really know. I'm a big action figure fan, so I really don't know why. But the first one, I had no care to get at all. Um, I was just like, yeah, it looks stupid. Probably like a judging the book by the cover type thing. Me being like, it looks like it's a game for like babies. Like I don't care. Um, but my sister had it, and you had it, and you guys played it, and I think you guys even played together a couple of times, and like you guys just had a lot of fun with it. So then the second one came out, and I was like, okay, it's superheroes. Like I'll get it. Maybe I'll see if I can get it. If my parents will let me get it, and I'll play it. And I got it, and I legitimately played it for one night, and then never touched it again. Because I was just like, yeah, it seems like whatever. And then the game changed when 3.0 was announced, and they said it was all Star Wars, and I was just like, oh shit.
I
I was like,
remember us like when the trailer dropped, we were sitting at like a Starbucks or something, and the trailer was out. We were just like, "Oh yeah, Star Wars, let's go!"
yeah. So yeah, I was just like, well, I'm gonna have to get this. It's technically like a Star Wars game, um, which also still worked out for me because I had some of the ones from 2.0, so I could use the 2.0 ones, and then I still had my sister's 1.0 ones. So it really still worked out for me because by the time I got 3.0, I got the Star Wars ones, but I also had all like not all the Marvel characters. I had a bunch of Marvel characters that I had from original, and I had like I'm pretty sure every single one of the first ones because when the first one came out, my sister was very hardcore into it, and my mom was like very supportive because it was like she didn't really play video games. So my mom was like, "Oh, she's maybe playing a video game, so I'm gonna support it." So basically, anytime we went to a store, that was like the toy that Grace would get was either a figure or a play set or the power discs, stuff like that. So yeah, I was loaded as soon as 3.0 came out. I was fucking loaded, man. I was like, I'm good to go. I got so many characters. Yeah, the first one came out or the third one, I mean, came out, and that yeah, it was really big for both of us. And to be honest, that was the introduction to one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time, which is Kanan Jarrus, because I didn't watch Rebels. Um, but when I went to the store, I think when I was getting the game in general, I was looking because obviously like with the Disney Infinity games or Skylanders, you can't just get like the starter pack. You got to get at least two other figures if you're not going to get the playset or something like that. So I was looking at the like characters and stuff, and he was like one of the ones that when they released it, the Rebels characters were store exclusives. So like Kanan was Walmart exclusive. I think Ezra was like Toys R Us exclusive. Sabine was Best Buy exclusive, like stuff like that. So when I went, I got it at Walmart, which I guess technically would be like the Walmart was the I guess saving grace because if I would have went to Toys R Us, I would have got like Sabine or something like that. So yeah, I went to Walmart. I was like getting the game. I think I got like Vader, like got some of the big characters, and I was like, my mom was like, well, you can get one more, and I was just like, well, no offense, but at the time I was like, I don't really care about Han Solo or Chewie. I was like, I just don't necessarily care about these characters too much. But then I was like, well, this guy looks kind of cool, and at the time I was like, well, I don't know who he is, but he looks really cool, and if anything, I can just pretend that that's me. You know what I'm saying? I can just pretend that that's my character. So I got him, and that was the introduction to legitimately one of like my third favorite Star Wars character of all time, which is Kanan Jarrus. But yeah, for both of us, that game was just insanely fun and really did a lot for both of us. And speaking of like that like connection that we now have and like that friendship we now have, I think Disney Infinity was really a crucial part in that bond and
Oh,
bringing us
100%.
together.
Like in terms of like video games out there, that's probably one of the biggest like games that our friendship has like developed on.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it was just so fun. Like I had the obviously the starter pack, which was the prequel playset, which I enjoyed because I'm a prequel guy. I didn't have the original trilogy one. You had the original trilogy one.
Hmm.
Because he's an original trilogy guy. Um, so like you had that one. I think at some point you let me borrow it, and
Yeah.
I ended up playing it. But yeah, it was just really fun to go into the toy box, have all these different Star Wars characters and all these different like things you could build. I loved having the house where you can just constantly expand on the house and put posters on the wall or things like that. Having the little people dressed as like Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker walking around. I was like, this is so fun in a game that really is still meant for kids. It's not meant for at the time we were still like we weren't adults, we were teenagers.
Hmm.
But it's not meant for teenagers. It's meant for little kids. But we were just having fun, like going in, whether we were doing like a mission together or we were just beating the hell out of each other for like 2 hours, just knocking each other off the map. Like it was just so fun, and they really expanded on like the endless possibilities within the toy box.
Hmm.
And then they also had like the constant continuation. Like 3.0, I think was the biggest one because that was like the last one, and it had like I think the biggest lifespan of like characters that were coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the main focus of 3.0 was Star Wars, but they after a while like decided to release like a good amount of like Disney characters and Marvel characters. So like that was another thing. I was getting bigger into the MCU at that time. So like Civil War came out, and I was able to get the Civil War pack, or like I think not Civil War, the Rumble pack or whatever, with that expansion, and you get the Civil War cap. I remember us being so hyped for Ant-Man and Black Panther to come into the game when they
Hmm.
released those figures. And then back to Star Wars, like Boba Fett coming out and being hyped for that, and like us being on the internet being like, damn, like Boba Fett already technically came out with that PS4 like pack, but now we can't get it. We got to wait till like January of next year. And then it came out, and you and I like ran to Walmart and got Boba Fett and went home and played. And then like they had the Force Awakens pack, which was another big thing because that was another place that they were adding into the game. So we were getting a new content in a sense and new characters. And Kylo Ren's my favorite character of all time at the moment, I should say. And so then getting his figure, I was just like, oh, this is so sick. Like now I got Kylo Ren in the game and I get to play as him, you know? So yeah, that was a really, really big game for the both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you have any other thoughts or comments on that before we move on.
No, I think we've covered that pretty well.
But yeah, I think maybe that's that. Other than these other two, I think that might be all the Star Wars games that we want to cover at least, because there's still a bunch of Star Wars games, but there's a lot that we didn't play or we didn't really care for.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward onto what is possibly the biggest Star Wars game, and one of the most like in-depth and emotional stories is from my background, as you can see, is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which came out 2019. As a game, obviously you and I both played day one. We had that, or I played day one. I let you borrow it when I beat it. And like that game is just to me on another level, and I think that might be my favorite Star Wars game at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it may have topped Lego Star Wars and the original Battlefront 2 and KOTOR. I think that one's on top right now.
It definitely. I don't think it beats Lego Star Wars for me. That's still probably like my favorite Star Wars game. But definitely,
Okay, yeah,
like,
actually, I have to agree. I don't think it beats Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, come on now.
Lego Star Wars is up there.
That's our childhood you're talking about.
That is.
But definitely, like Fallen Order is definitely probably, in my opinion, the best story-based Star Wars game out there.
Mhm.
And it was so much fun to play. I played through it twice. Like I don't really play games through twice, but I definitely played that one through twice.
Which is something I'm contemplating doing as well. Is going back because I just recently, because I kind of forgot you had it. I just recently got it back from you, so I'm contemplating going back and playing it again.
You definitely should. It's definitely one of those. It's definitely because like throughout like 2015 and now, like EA's had that just like stigma of just like bad Star Wars games, because with like Battlefront 1, it was just like there wasn't enough content. Battlefront 2, that whole disaster at the beginning. Well, I mean, Battlefront 2 now is definitely like a fun game to play. Everyone should definitely like get into it. But we'll talk about that more when we get into it. But like when Fallen Order came out, like that was so big because it was like the first like Star Wars game that EA made that everybody just like fell in love with and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think with everything that comes out with Star Wars, like whether it's the prequels or this like Disney era, I know you're not a big fan of like the sequel trilogy, but I think you still might be able to agree with me. Like with each thing that comes out of Star Wars, there's a new character that out of all the characters, they always introduce a bunch of new characters, but there's always a character that like you tend to like be like, oh, I actually really like this character.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So like for me, like within obviously the sequel trilogy, Kylo Ren, that's the biggest example I can give because he became number one for me. But I also really enjoy Poe Dameron. Solo, I really love Kira and Dryden Voss. Mandalorian, I love the Mandalorian, and the child is really cool. And IG-11. So when it comes to this Fallen Order, the second sister for me is that character. Like she's become my top 5 like favorites. Just because I enjoy. We joke about how like she's like the female Kylo Ren. But at the same time, she still has her own story. You know, it's kind of similar to him, but she has her own story, and her story is really emotional, and you really feel for her when you uncover the fact that she was a Jedi and she kind of got left because her master kind of failed her, you know, and that caused her to, you know, be captured and turn to the dark side. So yeah, like for me, that was the character. I don't know if you have a character from the game.
My favorite character was definitely Marin because like the Night Sisters were a very big part of the Clone Wars and stuff like that, and just being able to go more in depth with their story and with her character, like having a whole like switch in like morals and stuff like that to be able to help out Cal and stuff like that, and just to be able to explore Dathomir more too as well is just a very fun and more like lore based stuff that I really like to see in this kind of games.
I agree. And let's talk about for a second our our hopes and dreams being crushed of Maul showing up on Dathomir at some point.
Oh my God! Everyone was thinking it. Everyone was thinking it. It's like, where's Maul?
I agree.
Where's he
I think
showing up?
everybody that played that game that knows of it and knows what Dathomir is, was expecting like Maul or maybe even like a Mother Talzin, some sort of cameo or something, which we didn't get. But yeah, everybody was like, we're going to Dathomir at some point. Maul's going to show up in this thing. Even to one point where I thought, Malicos, because he's under the hood for a while, I thought he was Maul. I was like, this is just Maul, like pretending to be weird or something like that. He's just being weird, and then eventually I'm going to fight Maul. So hopefully somehow maybe he shows up in the second game if you go back to Dathomir or something like that. Yeah, we were kind of disappointed. We were like, oh man, we really thought Maul was going to show up on Dathomir. And I my very very distinct memory, right when you get into the game, right, like after you do like the prologue and stuff, and you kind of have the ability to like pick the planet you're going to.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, you're supposed to go to one planet, but Dathomir is the only other planet that's like unlocked for you to just go to. So I was just like, well, I think I have to go to that planet for the mission, but maybe I can go to Dathomir, so let me go there. And obviously at the beginning of the game, you're very weak. You pretty much have like almost no force powers. You die almost instantly. And so I remember going to Dathomir and climbing up the thing and just seeing that giant monster. And I was just like,
The
okay.
Star Wars Deathclaw.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, fuck that, I'm out. And I legitimately just dropped down, went immediately back to the ship, and just went to the planet I was supposed to go to. That was a very funny memory. I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother with that thing because I have no clue what that is. But the planets in that game are beautiful. The whole game in general is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think I forgot the name. What was the planet, like the grassy-esque planet with like the cracks in it and stuff, where the temple was?
Bogano?
Yes, Bogano, I think so. And another thing, yeah, you could tell me if I'm wrong or agree with me, but I'm pretty sure like when I got to Bogano and I saw off in the distance that giant like lizard fucking shark thing or whatever, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna end up fighting that at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I could agree with that.
Which you don't. It actually seems when after you continuously go back, he actually just kind of seems like a very peaceful creature. He's kind of just chilling the whole time. He's like sleeping 90% of the time, or he's just like looking around. So you're like, okay, I guess he's just chill. Like this is very weird to see a giant creature in Star Wars that's not trying to kill you or attack you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely like the planets and all that are definitely very well detailed, very explorative. Exploration is a big part of that game, and I think that's definitely one of my favorite parts of that game. Specifically, I want to get into on what was it, Zepho? I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a huge crashed like Star Destroyer, and I remember like my first playthrough. I don't know if you did this, but you can like go inside of the Star Destroyer and explore around and stuff like that. And there's like a bunch of like clone stuff around there. There's like recordings of clones like talking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember like that being like my favorite like area of exploration in terms of like the whole game, just because of like it adds more to like Cal's backstory and like Order 66 and all that.
Yeah.
And I definitely like enjoyed the whole exploration part of the game.
No, the exploration is obviously a very big part of the game. It's kind of like I look at that game as like Uncharted but Star Wars, or Tomb Raider but Star Wars. It's very, you're climbing on a lot of rocks and you're jumping from wall to wall. It's kind of similar to the Uncharted series and like the Tomb Raider series, like of that. But I will say like Dathomir, going back to Dathomir, the lower levels of Dathomir is pure fucking hell. For anybody that plays Fallout, I got a lot of Fallout vibes from that because it was just creepy and I didn't know what was going to attack me and when it was going to attack me and where it was going to come from. Which, if you play Fallout, you know that Deathclaws are known to somehow sneak their way around you and just attack you, to the point where it literally just smacks you as it's standing next to you and you have no clue where he came from. I got very strong like Fallout Deathclaw vibes from that the lower levels of Dathomir. I think the most emotional part is obviously that Order 66 scene.
Oh my god, that's probably like one of my, if not just my favorite part of the entire game.
That's probably my favorite part of the entire game too. It's just like, just like I think it was one of those things we kind of knew it was probably gonna come. Like we knew something was gonna happen. Whether it was just gonna be a scene or a mention or something. But we were like, they're probably going to say or do something around Order 66 because the whole game is based on this Jedi who survived Order 66. I think everybody can agree with me on the statement of when it happened, we weren't ready for it. Even if we knew it was coming, we still were not ready for it.
Like once that sequence started, I remember like going like, okay, it's another like young Cal sequence. What's gonna happen? I walked through the door and I saw the clones. I'm like, oh, here
You're
we go.
like,
Order
yeah,
66. And
yeah,
then
it's like,
especially too like during that sequence, like I remember like once after like Order 66 actually happens, like you're running through the hallways and the Order 66 music is playing in the background. That too, it's just like
yep,
it's so
yeah.
good.
And also they play on your heartstrings too, because like when before it happens, you're walking down the hall and like the Clone War troopers are like, "What's up, Cal? What's
Yeah,
up, dude? Like, what's up, buddy?" Like they're
we're
like,
leaving soon. You excited? Heck yeah, I'm
yeah,
excited.
like
Let's
they're
go.
friendly. They're friendly with them. They like love being able to talk to Cal and like be friends with Cal, these clone troopers. And then literally 2 minutes later, they're shooting his master and they're trying to fight for their lives. Um, but obviously very emotional. I think the most emotional part of that scene for me was obviously like the music kicks in and then I kind of lost it, kind of shed a few tears when his master said trust only in the Force,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was just like, oh man, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it, and
yeah.
then like to the whole like just being emotional, and then he said like wait for the Jedi signal to go back to the thing, and us knowing like that's a trap, like
That's
don't do that, you
yeah.
can't do that, if you do that you're dead, and obviously he didn't do it. He got Obi-Wan's message, I guess. And I was just like, God, this is too much for me to handle right now. It's too much. And I don't know if you've done this, but I've gone on YouTube and watched people's reactions to that scene, and
I
that's
think I probably have. I think I probably have.
equally
Yeah.
emotional because now you're like sharing it with this random person who's also like crying, and you're just like, I feel for you, dude. I feel for you because I was in the
Oh
same spot.
man, they're crying. I'm crying.
Yeah,
Everybody's
yeah.
crying,
It's
man.
so emotional, man. But equally emotional, or not equally emotional, because again, that's probably like the best part of the game and the most emotional part of the game. But for me, obviously, again, having Trilla, second sister, be up there for me, really emotional to see her backstory, like to see the first real glimpse of her past, where you're on Bogano and she takes the helmet off and she explains like I was a Jedi, and then the scene where Cal grabs her lightsaber and he like relives her past, and just having to see her past is also very emotional for me to watch, Um, but like overall, that game is it's just incredible. That it's so well done on EA's part.
hmm I remember like I think like my favorite like just going through the game part was definitely like on Kashyyyk, like at the end of Kashyyyk, like on your like second run,
Mhm.
like Ninth Sister's chasing after you in the TIE fighter, and you're like zooming down trees and stuff like that, avoiding blaster fire, not getting hit by this giant bird, and everything crazy is going around, and the music is just so well done,
Yeah.
and I think they really nailed that game, and I think definitely like at the ending with the whole Darth Vader thing, definitely
Mhm.
being just a very great ending, and I think I'm very excited for like the second game to come out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which, for those that don't know, it is confirmed that that's a thing. This sequel is happening.
hmm
Um, but yeah, that Vader thing, like, with I I can't stress enough how important music is to Star Wars.
hmm
Music in general is very important to movies or TV shows, but Star Wars is almost on another level, especially now that we know almost all of the songs. You know what I'm saying? So like that part where Vader comes in and the song kicks in and it's like quiet and then you hear and you're just like, no way, like what is going on? And then Trill is like, avenge us, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Like I
And
knew
then
what
she
was
just
gonna
gets
happen.
killed in one
I'm
hit,
just
and the
like,
music
oh
drops.
my god, I was
And
like, because I was hoping so much. I'm like, oh, hopefully, like she can get redeemed. And then watching the scene, obviously, like right before it, she's redeeming herself and she's apologizing and stuff. So I'm like, here we go. Trill is going back. She's gonna be a goddamn Jedi, and something like she's gonna show up in something as a Jedi again. And then Vader just came and crushed my dreams.
yeah,
I was just like, oh man. But yeah, that's just so intense. And also, again, they show like that raw power of Vader. Like when you get back into the game from the cutscene and you're having to like fight him and kind of get away from him, you're just seeing him literally just stand there, not moving at all, and you just see the floor just ripping up and things just like moving in the
getting
air. And this
chucked
dude
at you.
is, and he's not doing it. He's not force throwing them. He's literally just standing there
Yeah,
using the force without even like exerting any effort. And you're just like, God, they really want to show how powerful
it,
Vader
it
really is.
parallels that one scene from Rogue One of just
Yeah.
how much of unbridled rage and power like Vader has in him.
Mhm. for sure. But yeah, I think, and another thing too, kind of like Force Unleashed, like had really cool customization. You couldn't necessarily change the outfit too much. Like there was like one other outfit, but the main outfit was kind of the same. It was more just changing the color of the outfit, which I
Mhm.
kind of wish there was different outfits, like in Force Unleashed, how there was a bunch of different actual outfits that looked different. But it was still cool going around and getting like the chests where you can find a new lightsaber part or find a new skin, which again, that was another thing that I don't think we've really ever seen in a Star Wars game was lightsaber customization
Oh
other
yeah,
than the
the
color.
lightsaber, the customization was so like in depth. Like there was like for the hilt you had 20 parts. For the like the every like part had like 20 parts to it. There were like
Yeah,
7 different lightsaber colors. You can make it double bladed. You can make it not double bladed. You could
which was also really
attach the
cool
double
to like
blades.
to find out that like you can go to Dathomir and you can find like an Easter egg that unlocks the double bladed version, you know.
Hmm.
Which in reality it also wasn't just like a cosmetic thing. It really actually really helped you. Like having
Yeah.
the double blade really did like a lot more damage. You were kind of faster with it and stuff. But like I even noticed too, a lot of the pieces, and this goes to show how great they are with like tying things in and stuff like that. A lot of the pieces in the lightsaber customization are, I'm pretty sure, involved and in the actual like Galaxy's Edge lightsaber build that you
Yeah.
can do.
A
Because
lot
like
of
I
those
think
pieces are definitely based off of that.
because I think I found some pieces and I built obviously a lightsaber and I like looked at the lightsaber and I'm like, wait a minute, and I grabbed my lightsaber. I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is the same piece. I'm like, this is so cool. So I think I was like not fully able to build my lightsaber in there, but like make it very similar to what my actual lightsaber is.
Hmm.
Um, what lightsaber color did you use for the most of the playthrough?
I started out with like obviously you start with blue, and then I saw that I could change it to green. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna go green. And most of the playthrough I went with green. But then like when you can like go on to Ilum and like change your like lightsaber color to one of like the 5 options and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
think I went with like pink or something like that,
Okay.
just for
So
fun.
like I think obviously yeah, I meant like in Ilum where you have when you have like the full unlock of all the colors.
Yeah.
I think I also kind of went with pink off the start, but then after a while I changed it to orange because I was just like this just fits so well with his hair. I was like, and to be honest, I'm not even joking. Literally, if you do change it, it does look really good because you have his hair and you have the orange lightsaber. It actually looks really good and it matches. So I don't know what Cal's like. Obviously, I guess blue is, but if they find a way to actually change his lightsaber color, like if they canonize that lightsaber color change, hopefully they go with orange because to me it looked really good.
I feel like if they're gonna do like a like color change out of all those colors you could pick on Ilum, I feel like they're gonna go with yellow. That's my guess.
Okay, which yellow also works. It's kind of similar to orange a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, that game is just incredible. Anybody that hasn't played that game, you should definitely pick it up because it's almost unreal how great that game is. All the
Mhm.
characters like I enjoyed. The only character that I didn't necessarily like was Malicos. I didn't. Not that I didn't like him, I just didn't really feel anything for him. I didn't really care for him, and I didn't like what the hell was the small dude's name?
Small. The pilot?
Yeah,
Grease.
Grease. I didn't necessarily care for him. To me, I don't. And Jack, you can test this because you could probably tell. I don't necessarily like characters that are like obnoxious like that. Like they'll have jokes and whatnot, and I can laugh at it. But I'm not a big fan of somebody who's like a smartass in a sense. I'm just like, dude, we're all here to do a job, so let's just do the job, man, and stop complaining about the Jedi or something like that. Like, let's just do the job. So I wasn't necessarily a big fan of him, but everybody else in the game, obviously, Second Sister topped everybody for me. But I love Marin as well. I think she's great. Cal is a really good character. The damn Jedi Master who I'm forgetting the name of.
I.
Yeah, I don't remember, but the Jedi Master, she was cool. Obviously Vader showing up was great. So yeah, just that game in general is just really insane.
Mhm.
You have any final thoughts on Fallen Order?
Um. I'm just very happy for the sequel. I think they did a great
Yeah.
job, and I can't wait to do what they do with the second one.
And I think Fallen Order sequel is on par with the Spider-Man sequel for Marvel with us. I think we're both equally as
Mhm.
hyped for
Mhm.
for both of those games. Like those games are going to be great. And again, obviously we're really hyped for the last Lego Star Wars, or from what we know is going to be the last Lego Star Wars. But moving on to the last little bit of discussion here, the biggest discussion that we're probably going to get into, which this episode's already probably like an hour long, but You know what? It's a
Well,
podcast.
what's 1 hour more? What's 1 hour
Exactly.
more?
It's a bonus podcast more than likely anyway. So we're just having fun. We're discussing this. So let's get into the Battlefront franchise.
Mhm.
So we have we'll start with the obviously the originals, and then we'll move to the more recent two, the rebranded ones. So like the first one, I had the first one, but I didn't play it as much because I didn't get it like released. Obviously, again, we were younger and stuff. So by the time I got the first one, but at the same time the second one came out, I just got the first one because I wanted to have all the Star Wars games similar to wrestling. I had like not all the wrestling games, but I had like all the major ones, all the SmackDown games and the SmackDown vs. Raws and stuff. No matter how old they are. If it was 2010, I still went and like would get the 2007 just because I wanted it. So it's similar with Star Wars. If there was a Star Wars game that I saw that I didn't have, I would still get it whether it was not good as another one or whatever. So I had the first one, but didn't necessarily play it too much because again, at the same time, the second one had already been out. So played that a little bit. That's a decent game. So if you have any thoughts about that, because I really don't have too much to give to it.
I never played the first one at all.
Okay.
I have no memory of that whatsoever. I definitely played the second one a lot more than
Yeah.
the first one.
So yeah, okay, we can move from the first one. If anybody really loves the first one, we're sorry. We just don't. It wasn't for us.
We're too young for that. We're too young
Yeah.
for that.
So moving to the second one, the original second one, which is another one. It's probably our favorite out of the like four main ones because they had the spin-offs and stuff. So out of the four main ones, that's you and I's favorite. It's definitely on probably both of our top 5 favorite Star Wars games in general list. The second one is it's incredible. And then it's another game. If anybody hasn't played the second one, the original second one, if you have a PlayStation 2, like go back and play it because that game is awesome. That game again went into the hype of the prequels of us growing up and being surrounded by Star Wars and whatnot. And yeah, it was just great. Obviously, you have the different classes and whatnot to play, and everybody did that. But the real shining star, and the big feature that was added was the ability to play as heroes and villains, because that wasn't in the first one. The first one was very like you just going in as different classes and you're trying to win the game. So yeah, the second one had the introduction of playing as heroes and villains, which is huge. It was huge, like being able to go to Kashyyyk and you get to, you're playing and you get a little message that says, "Do you want to play as Chewbacca? Yes or no?" And you're like, "Hell yeah!" Or it says, "Do you want to play as Master Yoda?" And you're like, "Yeah." Or you go on the other side and it says, "Do you want to play as Grievous or whatever?" Like that was always the best part of every game was like you're playing and like you just casually look down and you just see the little, "Do you want to play as?" And you're just like,
do you want to? Do you want to?
yeah, and you're just like, yeah, I want to play as Darth Maul. Like, why would I not? So yeah, that was like the big feature was adding all those heroes, and wasn't like they added just Luke Skywalker and Vader. They added almost everybody at the time that was really in it. They had Vader, they had Luke, they had Yoda, they had Maul, they had I think Dooku, right? Dooku was in there.
Dooku was in there, yeah.
They had Grievous, they had Anakin, they had Obi-Wan, they had Leia, they had Han, they had Ki-Adi-Mundi. Like they had a really good amount and a really good selection. Boba Fett, I think Jango Fett was in there too. Like they had a really big selection and wide selection of characters to play as. So like for me personally, I was playing the game and I have like this memory of playing the game and my neighbor, my family, we're all good friends with their family. We all went out to dinner one night and I think I was playing like the PSP version or whatever. And I'm playing and I was friends with the younger neighbor, but he had an older brother who was a teenager. And he was like, "Hey man, if you go do this, 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 and this, you can do a whole heroes versus villains mode on Tatooine." And I'm like, "What? What?" And he's like, "Here, let me show you." And he went on to, the like just the game modes and went into Tatooine and did like the heroes versus villains or whatever. And I was just like, "Oh my God, this is a game changer." Because in reality, for me, I only ever wanted to play as the heroes and villains. I didn't really even care to play as the stormtroopers or the rebels or the clones. I was just like, I just want to play as Anakin Skywalker. Like, so I always like after that, every once in a while I would go in and I never really did Galactic Conquest and stuff like that. I always kind of just went in and did like team deathmatch type deals. But then after that, I really did almost nothing, but just went to Tatooine every time and just did that heroes versus villains, just playing as everybody,
Heroes vs. Villains is definitely probably like my favorite like mode of the bunch because it's like each team has 150 lives. You can pick any hero you want, any villain
Yeah.
you want,
And you can switch it up at any time.
Yeah, you can switch it up at any time, and I think a big part of that as well has to do with like the music choices as well, because sometimes it'll just be like Duel of the Fates, and other times
Yeah.
it'll just be Jedi Rocks and stuff like that, and
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
it's a mode meant to have just a good time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're just playing in your room. You're like 7 years old, 10 years old, or whatever. Just hearing that, just being like, just running around as freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi, killing everybody. That was always
You're
awesome.
running around as Darth Maul. It's like, all right, let's get into it. And all of a sudden, you just do.
Yep. And you're like, all right, now it's really game time, boys. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And it was also cool, like being able to fight in the cantina, like in Mos Eisley as a cantina. That was also really cool, to do. Yeah, that game, that game is just classic, man. That game is incredible. Obviously, again, the highlight was the Heroes vs Villains, but I know you a lot when I purchased like another PS2 in the past couple of years, and I got the game, and you came over and played it. You got real heavy into Galactic Conquest.
Oh my god! Like the game in general has a lot of replayability, whether you're playing the multiplayer, the story player, which is a really good story player. I definitely love Galactic Conquest. That is so much fun because it's just like a strategy kind of game in this shooter kind of game. You go to different planets, you put down troops, you fight battles, and it's like it has that good like what's the word I'm looking for? Just balance between like strategy and just playing the game in general.
Yeah, I was
It's definitely
never.
like a fun time, and you can play as like any four of like the factions. So you could be like the Separatists, the Republic, Empire, Rebels. You can pick any of those and just like go throughout the galaxy.
And I was never, to be honest, like never really big into Galactic Conquest. Again, I just wanted to kind of go in and shoot everybody or kill everybody with a lightsaber, pretty much. But I know that that has a very big fan base. Is like that story mode and the stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like I played a little bit, and I do like the whole like the clone trooper, basically kind of voicing over and giving a little bit of backstory of the Clone Wars and what was going on and stuff like that. So I understand why it has a very big like following and why people enjoy Galactic Conquest so much.
The story definitely has a big following, just because like it everything that has like just more emphasis on Order 66 is just so beloved because that's like one of the biggest moments in like Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
Just the falling of the Jedi and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's definitely like a big story mode compared to like other games.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that kind of ends that. If you have anything else to add, but I think that's covered that pretty heavily.
I mean, I can always just go back, play Star Wars Battlefront 2, and just listen to Jedi Rocks while killing Jedi scum.
Yeah, that game has a very big replayability value. Like you can again, you don't have to be invested. It's not there's obviously the story mode, but it's not like a Fallen Order where you have to be invested in everything you're doing to pay attention to know what's going on kind of thing. It's almost like in a sense like a Fortnite or something. You can literally just pick it up and just jump into it,
Yeah, it's one of the most like replayable Star Wars games out there. Like even with Galactic Conquest, like such a long and strategic thing like that, you can pick it up and put it down whenever you want to.
Yeah.
It definitely has that replayability value to it, and that's definitely like a very important thing and why it's so beloved.
Yeah, for sure. So moving forward onto Battlefront 2015. This game, I want to make like some sort of statement here because this game is like almost like trashed, right? It's almost just like this game's horrible. Fuck that game. But I'm gonna be honest, no, like there was complaints and stuff, but everybody was enjoying the game when it was out.
We were having a hell of a fun time playing that game.
Like I'm like I can't understand. I understand why there was things that we wanted and whatnot, but I just don't understand. People trash it and people are going like ridiculously in on it. I'm like, guys, in 2015, we were like, this is one of the best Star Wars games we ever played in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I enjoyed the game. Obviously the paid DLC, paying like $100 for all that DLC was not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But the game in general was fun. Like you go in again, you pick your classes and stuff like that, or you go in, you do like Heroes vs Villains, you play as Luke Skywalker, and I know that was probably the biggest thing that the complaints were about is that there wasn't a very vast selection. It was all just original trilogy, and even within the original trilogy,
there wasn't that much at like the start of the game.
And even at the end, there was still like Greedo, and everybody's like, yeah, we don't necessarily care about Greedo. We would have rather had this character instead, So it was a lot of like people being, you guys picked these characters when we want all these other characters, and you guys are just kind of putting all these random characters in that we don't necessarily care too much about. Like nobody really wanted to play as Nien Nunb, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was the thing, and I have the complaints about it. I understand that stuff, but yeah, to like trash it like that, I'm like, guys, you're kind of being hypocrites because you were enjoying the game when it was out, you know?
Mm. It definitely lacks the content that people were expecting. Just because like everybody remembers fondly of like how Star Wars, like the original Battlefront 2, had like
Yeah.
just so much content, so much of this, so much of that, and just it comes out and there's like 7 modes, and it's just like no single player whatsoever. And I could definitely understand why people would get mad at that. But even like in those 7 modes, like Walker Assault, Starfighter Assault, Gonk Droid Run, or whatever it was, like all those modes were just so much fun to play.
Mhm.
And like yeah, it didn't have all that many heroes, and like sure, like you had to pay a lot for the DLCs and stuff like that. But I definitely like remember just having like a bunch of fun playing the game.
Yeah, and it didn't have a story mode, which did suck, and obviously they corrected it, and Battlefront 2 gave us a pretty good story mode. But yeah, in the first one there wasn't a story mode, so yeah, there are complaints and things like that. But for the time being, when we had that game, we had fun. You and I had a blast playing that game together. You know, we would play that game together like every day. Like that
But
game.
even like though like there were definitely like ups and downs that we had with that game, like definitely because of just like the lack of content, like just
Mm.
we could like go back and still just have such a fun time playing the game. Like if we
Yeah.
really wanted to, we could.
Mhm. And the DLCs were fun and somewhat are kind of different enough from what we got in Battlefront 2. Like there's some stuff that's similar, but like in the first Battlefront, you put Jyn Erso and Krennic in the game, but they're not in the second one. So if you want to go and hey, if you really like those characters, you want to play those characters, now you got to go back and play the first one. You know,
Hmm.
and there's different maps and stuff like that. But the game for the time being was fun and it was worth it and it was good. Again, yeah, like looking back on it now and having Battlefront 2, um, it's obviously nowhere near that same level, but for the time being, it was a good game and we really enjoyed it and played the hell out of it.
Hmm. Like and even like for those DLCs and stuff like that, like yeah, like we shouldn't have had to pay for those because those like just should have been in the game in general. But like
Yeah,
even though like you still have to pay for them, like they add like 2 characters a pack. They add a map in one pack. They add a new game mode in one pack. It definitely like evolves the game every time one was dropped, and everybody would always like go back and play. Like even for like free players, there was always like something new for them around
yeah,
the time of those DLCs dropping. So definitely like once those dropped, everybody could like go back and play it and have a good time. And I think like around the time of like Battlefront 2 coming out,
mm,
they dropped like all the DLCs for free for everybody, so everybody could just go in and play all the DLCs if they hadn't already. And I definitely think like while like everybody has their like complaints about it, I definitely think it served its purpose as like the first Battlefront for
mm.
EA's.
And now
Like
I'm pretty sure you can get the complete collection for like $10 on the PS Store.
yeah, I'm more than sure you
I don't
could.
know,
Yeah,
are the servers still up? Do you know?
I'd be surprised honestly if they were still
Yeah.
up. I'd definitely be surprised, but I'm not gonna say no because I just don't
Well,
know.
I mean, yeah, I would be surprised as well, but at the same time, that's a very heavily online based game, so you would think they would maybe keep them up just because that is the game. Like without the servers, you got like 2 modes to play, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
So the servers might still be up. I don't know if anybody's interested in it. I know it's very cheap on the PS Store. You can probably look up on Google if the servers are up, and maybe play it because there is some different content than Battlefront 2 has. Um, but with that said, the big boy is here. He has arrived. He has knocked on the door. Battlefront 2 he has now kicked in the door. He is
Oh my
coming towards
god.
me,
Oh my
and,
god.
and he is here. It's time to talk about 2017's Star Wars Battlefront 2, Jack.
Battlefront 2, man. When this game like got dropped and stuff like that with like the story player or like single player story and all that stuff, like it was like okay, EA's learned from their mistakes. They're taking a new direction in it. They're fixing it up. They're making the Battlefront that everybody wants to play and stuff like that.
Mm,
And I think like it's hard to talk about Battlefront 2, especially since like there's so many players that still haven't returned from like when it launched
mm.
that we kind of like hold on a sec. Sorry about that. EA came at my door and told me I couldn't talk about that.
Oh, okay.
uh no, but definitely like that whole like just issue they had at launch with like all the like the pay to win stuff like that. It definitely
Yeah.
was like a good first like
It started off very rocky with
it definitely started off very
the
rocky and
microtransaction situation.
mhm. And even with like the single player and stuff like that, like everybody was like expecting like an Imperial like story mode through and through. But then when like I remember a bunch of people getting mad when they like changed it up to like the rebel side. Like at least for me, like I was super fun, like having like the Imperial missions and stuff like that. And playing through those,
Yeah.
those was so much fun.
Mhm.
But then like when they went through the rebels, it's like okay, we've done through this story. Like every Imperial usually goes to the rebels. Like that's not new. I wanted to play like an Imperial story through and through,
Yeah.
and that was like something that I felt like very much so bugged me.
Okay.
But like at this point in time, like from like its release date in 2017 to now, it's definitely like improved so much. It's one of those games that you'd never think could come back from the thing that it was, but it
Mhm.
has, and it's like the content is just so much better now too because it's added so much like prequel content, original trilogy content, sequel trilogy content.
Mm.
They've really like kept up like making the game, and it's very sad to see the they stopped supporting it now with all the new DLCs. There's no more coming, but I
Yeah.
definitely think Battlefront 2 is at the right place it needs to be the game it should.
Yeah. One thing about the story that I really liked was in the beginning of the story when Iden's like trapped on that, like she's not trapped, she's captured on that rebel ship.
Hmm.
Um, I liked how they kind of showed like not all rebels are the good guys
Hmm.
because they had the guy interrogating her who was just like an asshole. Like he was just being like violent and being just aggressive and stuff like that. So I liked how it's like, yes, in Star Wars, the rebels and the Empire are the good and bad guys, and the Republic and the Separatists are the good and bad guys. But not everybody is a good person, you know,
Hmm.
within that, and not everybody on the Separatists or the Empire are bad people as well. Obviously,
It's making like a morally good protagonist out
yeah,
of an imperial character, which is something I fell in love with so much of a
mhm,
concept because like they're always portrayed as just the bad guys, and then like they can't all just be like villains and stuff like that. They're not all pure evil.
yeah,
Like everybody has their own like psychology and viewpoints and things, and I
mhm,
just wanted to see the imperial viewpoint. I'm very happy that I at least got like a taste of that, you know.
something, yeah. Um, but I enjoyed the story mode. Obviously, I think Fallen Order coming out has kind of made it like, well, that story mode now the Battlefront 2 story mode really doesn't matter at all. Nobody cares because we have this incredible story mode, this whole game that's just a story based game. But that story mode is still fun to play. I think I maybe played it twice. I think I may have went back and played it again.
I've
Um,
played it twice. I'm pretty sure. Definitely
might
played it
have
twice.
might have to even go back and play it again just to play it again. You know, but yeah, I enjoyed the story mode. I liked that story of you have this character who is at the beginning is like all hail to the emperor, like, you know, we'll watch the rebels burn type deal, and then, you know, understands like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. What where the empire is going here and what they're trying to do is not what I signed up for, you know, and then, you know, defects and goes to the rebel side. I enjoyed that.
Mhm.
So I think the story was great. I enjoyed the like the free DLC that they put in of the like Resurgence, I think it was called, like the story mode DLC. I thought that was good. Um, and yeah, the story in general was just a pretty good story.
It was a good. It was definitely like a good story.
And
Definitely 100%.
I think when the game first came out and for a while it was out, that was the selling point of the game
One
was
hundred percent.
this,
Yeah.
you know, finally you got this big story mode. But I think it's transitioned to now the story mode is not the selling point of the game. The selling point of the game is now the
The
actual
multiplayer
Battlefront
and all
part.
like the updates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Definitely 100%.
Because they took it and they said, okay, we're making the second one. What mistakes did we make with the first one? Okay, we made a mistake by charging $100 season pass for all these DLCs. So they made it right, and they made every DLC free. Everything was free. You know, the only thing you can purchase for that game was crystals to get credits, or to get crystals, which is the microtransaction form of credits. You know, to unlock like characters and stuff like that. Which obviously we discussed, and it was pretty rocky at the start. But they made all the DLC free, all the updates, whether it was a story mode DLC or multiplayer DLC. Everything was free, which was huge. I think when it was announced, everybody was just like, "Yes, like thank you, you made it right."
Hmm. And I think another thing to add on to that, like just the making it right part, is like outside of like DLCs and content and stuff like that, they've like completely revamped the multiplayer since it was like squad spawning is now a thing. Heroes versus villains is now actually like a fun mode because that target system is gone.
Mm,
Just like objective based game, but like they really like, and even like leveling up and stuff like that, like the way you progress through the multiplayer, they revamped it entirely, and they definitely like improved it since like the release of the game, I would say.
yeah. Um. So yeah, with that, like the updates, um, I personally did not think the updates were going to go as far as they did. Like they went above and beyond when it came to the multiplayer updates they put into the game. Um, I don't know like the total count. Do you know the total count of like multiplayer updates they put in?
Let me see. There was the Last Jedi one. There was Solo. There's like 4 Clone Wars ones. There was the one we just had, the Scarif one.
Mhm.
I think there was like eight of them. I think I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
So like when with the first game, the pre-order bonus for the first game was like some weapons and stuff like that, right? Which was like okay, not the end, like not anything too good, but enough to still obviously you're gonna pre-order it anyway, so it's like okay, cool, whatever. I get something. I think they changed it when it like they completely overhauled it when it came to the pre-order bonus for Battlefront 2. Getting the pre-order Rey skin and the pre-order Kylo skin and the 4-star card Yoda, that changed it for me. I was like, okay, I don't know how these really like these star cards really work. Like I know from the first one, but it's kind of different and stuff. But getting 2 skins, one of which is a character I love, is my favorite character. So getting a skin which is from the new movie, which we haven't even seen at the time. So this is like we're seeing the two outfits that we haven't even really seen anything of yet, and we're gonna get those for free. And that star card, that pre-order bonus was one of the best pre-order bonuses just in gaming for me in general.
Even with like cosmetics, dude, they went out and beyond with like the cosmetic portion of the game because like the clones have like 30 different outfits they can wear. Each hero or most heroes have like at least one other alternative outfit. Like I know there's some out there that don't, like Vader,
Yeah.
and like Boba Fett and stuff like that. They don't have alternative outfits. But like Han Solo has like 8 different outfits you can wear.
One of which is not even seen in any movie or anything. It's literally just him with a beard.
Yeah, no.
And you're just like, okay, that came out.
You want a beard Han Solo? You got beard Han Solo.
He showed up in the story with a beard apparently, so
yeah,
that's what it was. Which I'm not complaining. I like beards. I'm a beard guy. Not right now necessarily, but normally a beard guy. But yeah, they really overhauled it with the amount of characters. Like when they announced it, we were like, okay, cool, we're getting the second Battlefront. But then when we saw the trailer and we saw that poster art of on the left is Rey, and we're like, okay, cool, we're getting Rey. All right, that makes sense. Then on the right is Darth Maul, and we were like, oh my god, we're getting Darth Maul. And then in the middle is Iden, who is a new character we know nothing of, and we're like, okay, all right, what? Now we're getting new characters too. Like I remember us, I think we were either together or like on a chat watching like the press conferences and stuff as we normally do for like E3 and stuff like that, Star Wars Celebration, all those different things. And I think we both were just like, here we go, like Battlefront 2 is coming, and they literally right off the bat have already confirmed that it's going to be spanning everything. That was like the first selling point was story mode, and we're
all 3 trilogies.
Everything that we're doing is based off of not just the original trilogy like we did in the beginning. It's based off everything, which I think my original theory was, and I had told you was like I thought Battlefront 2 was going to be the prequel one, and then Battlefront 3 would be the sequel one. But then I was like, no, I'm happy with what they're doing right now. Like, I would have been fine, and I think you would have been fine with 2 being the prequel one and 3 being the sequel trilogy one. But them being like, no, we're not doing that. Battlefront 2 is going to be everything. It's going to be like the complete saga, And we were just like, yes, like thank you. We don't have to play as like Luke Skywalker and Vader anymore because those were like the only good like actual characters to play as in the first one.
Now we got like Yoda and Darth Maul and
Rey, Kylo. Like we were like, here we go. And then with every update, we just kept getting happier and happier. You get the first update was kind of We got Crate, which I like Crate, but we got Finn and Phasma, and we were like, oh, okay, we don't. You and I both don't necessarily care for those characters. But we were still happy. We're like, okay, well, at least we're getting new characters, and they're setting like the precedent of every update's going to bring new characters along for free, obviously. But then we got like the solo one, and we got the solo skins, which we were like, okay, cool. And then we found out they're like 80,000 credits, and we're like, okay, never mind.
never gain those on us.
Yeah. But you had like, what was like the first one that added, other than Last Jedi, that added?
I think it was either Obi-Wan or General Grievous. I don't remember which one came first. I think it was General Grievous who came first.
I think so too. I think it went Grievous, Obi-Wan, Dooku, Anakin.
Yeah, that's how it went. That's how it went. Yeah.
So yeah, and that was another thing too. We were on a PS4 chat watching like E3, and some random dude was like, "All right, we got some Battlefront news," and we were like, what?" We were like, "Oh, okay." And we saw like a little trailer for what was coming next, and then they were like, yeah, Grievous is coming like next week, and then Obi-Wan's coming in a month from then, and then Dooku's coming a month from then, and Anakin's coming like 2 months from that, and we're like, okay, holy shit, like we're getting what we want because these are like the really badass characters. Because obviously, like it's no secret in the original trilogy, the lightsaber fights were not that crazy, you know. So now we're getting these characters that we know can do all these crazy things because we've seen them do all these really cool, awesome things, you know. And they're just characters that are beloved. Obviously, for me, Anakin was my number one character until Kylo came around. So now he's technically number two, you know. But like, I was still hyped. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna have both my favorites in this game that I can play as, and it's a light side and a dark side. So now I have a main on both sides, other than my main on the dark side and the light side. I just normally picked Luke because I was like, I know I'm decent with Luke. I can work with Luke, you know. So yeah, what are your like thoughts on all that?
I was like for all those like prequel based content drops. I was definitely like excited for those, like because like I remember like in the original Battlefront 2, like whenever I played like Heroes Resistance, I'd always go straight for like General Grievous. So when like General Grievous like the first one that was gonna be dropped, I was like, okay, let's see what he's got. And now like General Grievous is like one of my favorite characters in that game too.
Yeah.
So like those characters in general are just like a great addition. But even like outside of just those characters, like you had Capital Supremacy that came up with, I'm pretty sure, Obi-Wan, which is one of like the best multiplayer mode that's out there right now because it's like ground to ship combat and stuff like that, which is definitely fun. And they added like a bunch of reinforcements too, like to the game. They added like the clone commando, they added the commando droid, droidica, all that stuff, and those are like definitely fun. Like
Well, I know
play as
that
well.
that was obviously very big. Like again, we discussed early on how big of a fan base the Clone Commando game is and Republic Commando is and stuff. So when they added the Republic Commando clones in, that was a really big deal. Everybody kind of lost their shit because
Yeah,
everybody
I was
enjoys
hyped
that
out
game.
of my mind. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
this is what I wanted.
Mhm.
But definitely like those like reinforcement stuff. Like even like when I can't play as a hero in like one of the bigger game modes, I'm like, okay, I can play as a reinforcement. I'm fine with that. There's a lot of reinforcements.
Yeah.
And recently they added like the ISB agent and the Ewok, and I love Ewok, so I'm like,
Ewok
even
Hunt,
this is like Ewok Hunt. Oh my god, that's such a fun mode.
terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
It's that like Friday the 13th kind of game mode,
Yes.
and we really just enjoy the hell out of it so much.
That it's like so many just funny moments, especially when one of us when we're both on different teams, because like if I'm an Ewok and Jack's stormtrooper, I'm just like I'm coming for you, Jack.
Everybody's always hiding in the caves. They're always hiding out in
Yeah.
the caves, like staying up near that one like entrance and stuff.
The war
like
is
that.
always in that damn cave.
It's always in the damn
it's
cave.
Just you can't go to the cave because it's just a war zone. It's a bloodbath.
You can't go out into the forest. You'll get killed out in the forest.
Yeah, yeah. So all the stormtroopers just chill in the cave. All the Ewoks wait for the stragglers to, for some reason, leave the cave, and then the war begins.
And the Ewoks just like ambush the caves and stuff like that.
It's insane. Yeah, Ewok Hunt was definitely one of the highlights of Battlefront 2 for sure.
One of my favorite modes definitely was they revamped like the flying a lot in this one, or just the mode in general. Like Starfighter Assault in this game, I found to be so much more enjoyable and fun because there's like objectives to it now. It's not just like team deathmatch with ships. Like every team has like an objective now. Like go destroy this ship. Go destroy this objective over here and stuff like that. And I definitely found that to be a lot more fun than in the first game mode or the first game.
Yeah.
And definitely like Starfighter Assault, like I don't really play that much anymore because they really haven't added content for it in like over a year now or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely still just one of those fun game modes that I'll always go back to and play just because I love the flying in it and it's just so much fun to play.
So I'm not in games in general. I'm not a big like flying guy. You could tell like in GTA I like fly planes and stuff, but in any other game I'm not a big fly. I don't really like flying and stuff. So I don't really play Starfighter Assault. I didn't play it really in the first one or the second one. I didn't really play it in the like original ones, but I again enjoyed how like with these new characters they added their ships, so you had more character ships. So you had Kylo's TIE fighter in there and Darth Maul's Sith whatever the hell it's called, his ship, but you had like a ship for Yoda. Like you had a ship for everybody instead of just like the Falcon and like Slave One and stuff. So
even though there are like 3 Millennium Falcons in the game now.
Yeah, for whatever damn reason. Like 2 understandable, the normal one and the one from Solo because they look different. But the third one, where it's just Rey and Chewie, makes no sense because it does literally like the same stuff and looks exactly the same. So that one was weird, and it was a weird decision on EA's part. I don't really know why they made that a thing.
I want to give EA like credit too, like with all their Star Wars games. I think
Is
just
that a Star
in
Wars fan
terms of
actually giving EA credit for something?
no, it's the just like the sound design and like the graphics and how everything looks
Mhm.
and just like all of that, just like in terms of like designing for the game. I think they really nailed it like with the first Battlefront, second Battlefront, Fallen Order.
Mhm.
Sound design and just graphics were something that they've really like blown out of the park with.
I agree. One of the things that I love dearly within Battlefront, even the first one, is the ability to emote. Had a lot of great moments with that because apparently, when you emote, sometimes everybody can just hear it no matter what part of the map they're on. So for a while, I only had before everybody was in the game, and I was using Luke as my like light side main. I had one emote that just said "Greetings, the Exalted Ones," and that became an inside joke meme between Jack and I because every time, as soon as we would start, I would hit it, and you would just randomly hear "Greetings, Exalted Ones."
Yeah, everybody would be walking on the screen and we would just hear it. It's like, what are you talking about? I'd be playing the game mode and I'd be like across the map on like Kashyyyk or something. And all of a sudden from the distance, I just hear like very quietly, just, Greetings, Exalted Ones. And it's just like, what are you doing? Go play the game.
I loved it. It was incredible. And obviously now I have all the emotes for everybody, so I'm just like spamming emotes. But the main emotes that I made sure I obviously got were Kylo's. And so like that was incredible for me, just being able to constantly spam cowards and he's just yelling cowards across the map. I
one of
love.
my one of my favorite emotes has to be Lando's, and that's like another little inside joke for us. How you doing, you old pirate? So good to
Yes.
see you.
That's another one. Like I'll be playing and I'll be on the other side of the map and I'll just hear Jack Jack just hits the thing. I just hear greetings, you old pirate or whatever. I'm just like again, like, yeah, what are you doing? Dude, play the damn game.
That's
Incredible.
the
The
only
emotes are
reason I
great.
picked Lando, and it's the
Oh
best
yeah,
reason
no.
I'd say
Nobody.
so.
We don't choose Lando because we want to. We just choose it just so we can hit the emote, and then we instantly change it. So when we die, we change somebody else.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, the game is great, and it's definitely one of Star Wars' better games. Even I think it adds to it the fact that it had a rough start because it adds like in a sense like character to the game. Like it adds something to the game.
Mhm.
It's that so that we can look back on it and be like it had a really rough start, but it really pulled it off. Like it really made something really good out of it.
Mhm. Exactly. Isn't the game added like the PS Plus like next month or something like that? I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
you
it
sent me
is.
that.
Thank you for that. That is something to cover here. PlayStation Plus next month has Battlefront 2 as free. It's the free game for June. Obviously, the May the May PlayStation Plus games were not very good with SimCity Simulator and Farming Simulator. So a lot of people were not too happy with that. So they put Battlefront. What was the other one? It was Battlefront 2 and something
Call
else.
of Duty World War II.
Call of Duty World War II, which is another great game that I love. Me and the other host of the show, Peps, when that game came out, we played the shit out of that together. And Jack and I have very fond memories of playing zombies in that game whenever he would come over.
Mhm. Definitely. We'd always just go to the house and we'd just camp there, like on the stairs or something like that, and we
Yep,
would always just have like shotguns or machine guns, just mow
just
down
going in.
zombies. Very reminiscent of like the very like I don't remember the name of it, but it was like the very classic like World at War zombies map. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a very
Mm.
like small confined area.
But yeah, those are the PlayStation Plus games. Next month, to me, this is really the biggest month I've really seen in a while. To be honest,
Mhm.
like that's two. There's always like normally one game that you'll pick up, and the other one you're like, I don't necessarily care about this. I'm not really gonna get it. But it's very rare. There's maybe once or twice a year within the PlayStation Plus like timeline for the year that both games are huge. I obviously own both games. Jack owns one game. So it's not necessarily big for me because I already have those games, but in a general sense, it's really big. So anybody that's got PlayStation Plus, definitely grab those, even if you don't really want to play it. Me and Jack and Peps even have that mindset of like, it's free anyway, so just add it to your library because it's literally free anyway. So as long as you have PlayStation Plus, because you never know, you could have a change of heart, you could have a friend come over that wants to play the game or something, so you have those games.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely, if you have PlayStation Plus, grab those. If you're contemplating getting PlayStation Plus, this is the month. This is not my. It is the month to definitely sign up and get those two free games because they're huge games.
Mhm.
But back to Battlefront 2. What else you want to cover?
We've covered the single player. We've covered the multiplayer. I don't know what else there is to really cover that I can
Who
think of.
who is like your Who are your mains on both sides? I think I might
My
know.
mains, I have like leveled up like a bunch of heroes like on each side, just so that like no matter
Well,
like who
let
anybody
me
picks.
actually throw a wrench in there. Who are your like two mains on each side? Because everybody's kind of got two characters that they constantly play as
Um, the two characters like on each side or just in general.
on each side. So like for me, my two characters are Kylo and Maul, and Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Luke, depending on the situation.
On my side, I'd probably go with like Gravis and Vader,
Hmm,
but I'd always also like pick up Bosk just because like whenever I could.
okay.
Like Bosk is also very fun to play. But on the light side, I think it's pretty much just Yoda and Han.
Okay. Makes sense. Jack's favorite characters pretty much are Yoda and Han, so
Hmm.
it makes sense to me. I do wish that support was still happening, man, because and I think everybody does, because there's so many characters that we wanted that we never got, and that were always rumored and like uh were leaked that they were like in the source file, and they could be, and they could surprise us too. They could surprise us and say, hey, we're gonna put one more update in with these characters, or they could just be in the source file and we never see them ever, but there was rumors of like Ahsoka, Asajj Ventress, like there was still a lot of characters we want. Obviously, you have the Mandalorian now, so I would love to have Mando in there to be able to play as, or even Cara Dune, IG-11. Like, there's so many characters I would love to play as. I wanted them to add the Fallen Order characters. Obviously, Fallen Order you play as Cal Kestis, but I wanted them to add Cal Kestis and Second Sister to the sides, because those are great characters to play as. So I mean, great characters in general. So I'd love to. I obviously want to play as Second Sister. Cal Kestis is a great character to play as. So like that would be great to add in and have them in heroes versus villains. Like there's still a lot of characters that people wanted to see into the game that sadly we're never gonna get.
Mhm. Even outside of characters and stuff like that, of like things they could have added like more maps and stuff like that. They could have added
Yeah.
like Coruscant
Mhm.
and other planets and stuff like that.
Oh man,
And
Coruscant. That's my planet. Like I would have
that's
been
that's
hyped
your
for that.
planet. That's probably the biggest planet that people really wanted to.
Mm. The
And I
lower
think,
levels, oh my god, that would have been insane.
oh, that would have been great. I would have loved to play it on Coruscant.
Starfighter assault, but instead of space, you're just in the upper levels of Coruscant.
Just like avoiding buildings and
Buildings,
stuff
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
try not to crash into them.
You see
But
the
even like,
Zilla beast come around the corner. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't sign up for
why is this here on this planet?
that.
But even if like we were able to like go into like Space Coruscant, like the giant battle of like Coruscant would have been like a great thing to see too as well.
Yeah, I mean that to me is like probably one of the, obviously Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie, but I think in a general sense, like that opening is probably one of the better and more impactful openings of a Star Wars movie, is that battle over Coruscant in Episode 3.
It really just goes like straight into the combat, and you're just like, all right, let's go. Let's see where this is going.
Mm.
Outside of like hero skins, I think we definitely could have had some more like hero skins as well, because Han has 8 of them and Vader has only like one skin.
Yeah.
I would have liked to seen like a battle damaged Vader or something
Mm.
like that. I think that definitely would have been a cool skin that everybody is usually requesting.
Yeah.
Robot legged Maul.
Yeah, and not behind a ridiculous kill wall.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'd like to not have to
Oh.
get 5,000 kills to get a skin. EA, that'd be great.
That was one thing. EA almost got out unscathed. They almost really did pull it off, but they kind of did ruin it with that 5,000 kill wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, I think we end the show. After doing all this, people can probably like tell what it is, but I think maybe we share maybe another memory, and we'll maybe do our top 5 favorite Star Wars games.
Okay.
So if you want to start, maybe start with top 5, and then we'll close it out with a memory.
Top 5. Number 1 obviously has to go to like the complete saga. That was my childhood. That's still one of my favorite games to this day.
Mm.
Just so much like enjoyability out of that. Number 2, I'm gonna give to original Battlefront 2, because that's another game that I grew up with a lot and played that a lot of. That was definitely a lot of fun. Number 3, I'm gonna give to Fallen Order, just because that was the newest one, and it's just so much fun, so much replayability, even for like a story-based game, like exploration and stuff like that. That's definitely like appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, very close second, or very close fourth, I'd say, is new Battlefront 2, because that's like definitely like a game for us that we've played a lot of, and that's helped us bond over even like our friendship as well.
Mm.
And number 5, Republic Commando. It's gotta be Republic Commando. Yeah.
And now it's like, is number 5 like favorite, or it's like from 5 up?
It's 1 to 5. It's basically just like
Like normal.
yeah.
Okay. So for me, I'd say number 5 would probably be New Battlefront 2. Number 4 would probably be KOTOR. Number 3 would probably be original Battlefront 2. Number 2 would probably be Fallen Order, and number 1 would probably be Lego Star Wars: Complete Saga.
Yeah. All right.
So that would be my top 5. Those are all great games. Anybody that hasn't played those games, definitely check all those out because I have a lot of great memories with them. They're just great games in general. So Jack, what's a Star Wars gaming memory that you have?
Star Wars gaming memory. Let's see. I don't know. I feel like I've covered all like the big Star Wars gaming memories we've already had throughout this entire podcast. I can't really think of like a good one that I can really think of. I think there's one, just like a simple one of you and me. Like, I remember you talked about this a little bit earlier, but like you came over one time and played like Lego Star Wars 2 with me at my house, and I remember like us playing like through like Return of the Jedi and stuff like that, and just through like Endor and stuff. But definitely like Star Wars gaming has definitely like been like a big thing for me throughout my entire life, and I've definitely like appreciated all the games I've been able to play.
And I would say kind of same thing. Like we kind of cover memories for it. So to me, I think maybe just like more of a memory to just expand on like with Battlefront 2 and like the amount of time that you and I spent on that, and just the amount of like inside jokes that we've come up with out of just that game, you know, and just like just ridiculous moments. Like Jack, you have a very distinctive laugh that makes me laugh, and so anytime someone gets like force yeeted off the thing and I just hear you shriek with laughter, just causes me to also shriek with laughter just because it's incredible. Like that game has really brought us closer together. It's given us a lot of really good inside jokes, a lot of good memories, a lot of good laughs. So that would be like my Star Wars memory. But yeah, like you said, like Star Wars gaming has been Star Wars in general has been a very big impactful part on our lives. And I think for me, very heavily recently, I've been really, I feel like almost into Star Wars more than I ever have in a sense, just because now it's like there's so much content and stuff, you know, there's like either a new game or a new show or there's a movie. So like I feel like I'm more into Star Wars more than I ever have. But yeah, my whole life just has been all about Star Wars. And I obviously, you know, would like to do a podcast like more like a nerd talk of you and I doing this, but instead of gaming, we're talking about just Star Wars in general, because we have, again, so many memories outside of Star Wars games of memories that we have together, where seeing the movies or even being little kids and playing with action figures together and all that stuff. Like the Star Wars has been a very big beacon of light within both of our lives for our almost entire lives. You know,
Definitely 100%.
That's like the number one thing we both have been into. Like for me, obviously professional wrestling has been in my life like that and stuff like that. But Star Wars has been really big for me and for you. It's been able to take us out of the real world and put us in those movies, and being able to go to Galaxy's Edge and live the stuff, or play the video games and live it through the TV screen, or going and watching the movies and seeing their perspectives. Like everything that happens in Star Wars, like we just love, even if we don't necessarily love, like you don't necessarily love the sequel trilogy, but you love having the experience of going to see those movies, you know?
Yeah.
And the hype for them, even like even after Last Jedi and you were not very happy, we have that great memory of like watching the trailer together for Rise of Skywalker. And in my head, I was like, Jack's not going to like this. Like, he hated Last Jedi. All he wants to do is just shit on Last Jedi. And then the whole trailer, I just hear you, like, flipping out. And you're like, dude, this looks so good. And then we hear the Emperor, and we were just like,
we were losing our minds. We were losing our minds.
Like, we were like, what the hell did we just hear? Like, yeah, Star Wars has been just so incredible for both of us. And we love it so much. And we're going to love it till the day we die, man. Like, no matter what happens, they can retcon everything and say Rey is the only Jedi to ever exist ever. And we'll still be like, yeah, that sucks, and we don't want to agree with that, but we still love Star Wars, you know. Like it's definitely big for us. So thank you for anybody that sat through this whole thing, because it's probably like 2 hours long. But yeah, thank you for watching or listening, however you choose to indulge in the Guides of the Galaxy podcast. Jack, thank you for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure
having this cool little idea that I had. And hopefully again we can do like a nerd talk on just Star Wars in general, and not having to just center on the games. We can talk about everything. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the support. Hope to have you guys continue to support the podcast. We really want to grow this. We really want to make it something really big. So yeah, we'll see you next time.